Yeah, this is definitely a pretty big departure for something like this for me. What's up guys, IGSQUAD here. So this is definitely not a typical video you would see on my channel, but I wanted to do this here to kind of, talk to a couple people, because 2020 was a really awful year for so many things. Of course, the global pandemic, but one of the biggest topics that comes up is racial injustice due to the BLM protests, the killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and others. And I never started speaking up as much as I have recently because I'm almost 18. I think I need to bring my voice. I need to help. And people need to start bringing their voices along too. So, yeah, we all need to speak up and give our opinions. So I sat down with a couple of students and teachers to basically get their perspectives on racial injustice. So let's meet our guests really quickly. We have joining us online, we have Mr. Timothy Mielke, who is my African-American history teacher. And then we also have Adeline Busch, Zach Wilcox, and Lena Rothschild joining us online. And then offline, we have Aden Banks and Ian Blumberg. You will hear me doing a voiceover for their answers to the questions. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get to it.
Yeah. So as a teacher, I think that the first thing that I'm going to think of obviously is the Pledge of Allegiance, because that's where we hear it the most often, or at least that's where I hear it the most often. But the phrase justice for all, it kind of bothers me as a phrase just because there are a lot of problems with the United States that we tend to ignore. And justice for all, the Pledge of Allegiance, the whole idea of it is to kind of reassure us of living in a free society and having equal opportunities and things like that. And that's just not the case in the United States, at least not right now.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of it,
Everybody has justice. It's not just one person. It's everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Before you start saying anything, I know the camera was shoved down in the corner on that last clip. So yeah, stop typing your comments.
I just kind of feel like you said, everybody does deserve a little bit of justice and does deserve a little bit of a chance. Because a lot of people judge people by the color of their skin, and we should be judging people by what's up here, what they think and what they do, and not how they look or act.
Yeah.
I think that it just comes down to equality, and that doesn't even mean that doesn't mean everyone should have the exact same thing. It's not about money or anything like that. It's just literally how you are treated, and everyone was raised differently, and your skin color, your religion, anything like that. I just think it's just borderline how you treat others.
So Aden says, I like or would like to imagine that everything is equal for everyone. I would also like to imagine that consequences for the same or similar crimes would be the same and not more intense for a specific group of people. Okay, so Ian says numerous things, but specifically justice for innocent black people Semitic, hatred against Jewish people, crimes.
Definitely not. I mean, I live in Squirrel Hill and I'm Jewish, so just from like the anti-Semitism perspective, you know, like the Tree of Life shooting, that's something that really hits close to home for me and the Jewish community. But obviously, like, hate crimes are a huge thing, whether it's anti-Semitism or, you know, Black Lives Matter and police brutality. So I think Squirrel Hill is a pretty, like, diverse community, and I think Squirrel Hill is pretty, like, politically active and stuff like that. So I would say maybe not necessarily in my community there's a lot of injustice, but I definitely see it happening in the world, and there definitely still is some.
Right. Yeah, kind of going out of news reporter mode here for a second. I live in Squirrel Hill as well, and yeah, I get what you mean about the diverse community. I mean, Alderdice, just that as an example, there's a huge like kind of split. I mean, probably not quite 50-50, but a split of, you know, white and black and, you know, other races in between.
I would have to say no. I live in Greenfield, and I think it's not as obvious, like, day to day. Like, I don't see it visually every day. I don't see inequality. But if we just think about, like, Pittsburgh in general, I think that, like, just from neighborhood to neighborhood, it really varies, like, the opportunities that are available in each neighborhood, or like the resources that are available in each neighborhood. So, like, for example, you know, I live in Greenfield. We have Giant Eagle. There are plenty of, like, restaurants. There are plenty of, like, there's a gas station. There's, like, plenty of resources within Greenfield. If you go 500 yards down the hill into Hazelwood, it's totally different. You know, like, they don't have a grocery store that's always there, that's open. They don't have, as far as I know, I don't think there's a gas station. There's just, like, there's not as many resources that are available in Hazelwood. And as we know, like, Greenfield is primarily a white neighborhood. Hazelwood is primarily a black neighborhood. And so, like, just in terms of that, like, there is an injustice being done where, you know, black neighborhoods are ignored a lot more often than white neighborhoods are.
Right.
In the United States, or not, I mean, yes, in the United States, but especially in Pittsburgh in general.
Yeah.
Well, obviously my community is mixed race because I have, like, mixed cousins, like African American uncles and, like, stuff like that. So my community is mixed with everyone, but I feel like for the most part everybody gets treated the same in my community and my surroundings, but I've seen other surroundings where people don't get treated fairly.
And we live, like, 2 minutes apart, so it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, our communities are very similar because of where we are, but our communities are very mixed race. Like, Monhall and Homestead and everything is everybody.
Yeah.
They're Chinese, African American, white, everyone.
Yeah. Ian says, I haven't seen people being treated fairly in my community. Especially due to anti-Semitism and multiple shootings. Aden says, I believe so. There are not any specific encounters or instances that I can think of right now that were not fair for someone?
In the heart of older days.
That I will admit to that.
Yeah, that's like the main place for me, at least, that I see it. But other than that, I'm not really like around that, I think.
I get it a lot of my school.
That's a hard question because, like I said, like, I feel like as far as Squirrel Hill goes, I feel like we're a pretty liberal community. Like, you know, you even saw, like, when Biden won, like, on Forbes and Murray, that there was, like, that huge, like, celebration. And so, I don't really know if I see it that much in Squirrel Hill, but I know, like, even, like, the boys' soccer team, I don't know if you heard about this, but I forget what school it was. They played a game against another school, and the other team was, like, basically saying slurs to our team because, you know, you'd have to ask one of the soccer players about that. I don't know a lot about it, but I know there was, like, an incident with that. And also, although, like, DICE is pretty diverse, and I think it's come a long way, my great uncle went to DICE, and when he went there, he said that, like, although there was black and white, it was extremely segregated within, like, the honors program and, like, PSP and the honors program, CAS. I feel like it's definitely come a little bit of a way, but, like, it was basically all the white, educated, Jewish, that, and then the PSP or the mainstream was, like, the black, low-income families. So there's still a little bit of that, but I do think it's progressed a little bit.
I've seen people, like, whenever I've seen people pulled over, or if I've seen the police in Greenfield, it tends to be in a family that's, like, a black family, or, like, involved with somebody that is a person of color, you know, instead of, and like, I don't see it, like visually, I probably don't see it as often, but that's certainly something that I have noticed, is that, like, whenever I do see a police officer in my neighborhood, it seems like they're almost always involved with somebody that is a minority, and not, like, the white people in Greenfield.
Right. I know that white privilege, people constantly say it's not real, but it's so obvious that it's actually there.
Right, and it absolutely is there. Like, it's just an injustice for us to ignore it. You know, like, the fact that we, like, so many people, like, the whole all lives matter thing, you know, like, as a response to Black Lives Matter, it just kind of, like, shows you that, like, a lot of people, like, white privilege, number one, it is real, and then number two, a lot of people ignore it in our nation, which, like, they don't think that it exists as a just, like, idea.
But, like, you really don't just see it happen, like.
Yeah. Right, and that's the thing, and like, I think a lot of people just choose to ignore it, or I don't know, maybe they don't see it. Maybe they live in somewhere where it's not as apparent, you know.
Yeah.
But it's upsetting that is a thing that is even debated, you know.
Aden says, "Not that I can think of." Ian says, "There is no particular place."
Yeah. And I think that this is a problem, again, I think that this kind of, like, ties on to what I've been talking about, but, like, this is a problem that we see in Pittsburgh a lot. Like, I think as Pittsburghers, like, we tend to think, you know, like, oh, Pittsburgh's really liberal, it's very Democrat, it's very progressive, but if you really look at it, like, it absolutely is segregated. Because, like, we have a city that's set up where we are structured into, like, different neighborhoods, right? And I mean, I can't even think of a single neighborhood that tends to, like, be a mix in terms of, like, the local populations. You know what I mean? Like, you look at Hazelwood, it's primarily black. You look at Homewood, it's primarily black. You look at the Hill District, it's primarily black. Where then you go to, like, Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, Oakland, like all primarily white. And it's like, it might not be like the official policy to segregate people, but because of the policies that are in place, it still remains a segregated place. Because the places like Homewood or Hazelwood, like they don't have equal opportunities. They don't have the same chances that people in Squirrel Hill have, or people in, a Shady Side even.
Not particularly at all. I would say there's probably more white people in Squirrel Hill than there are black or Asian or anything like that, but I don't think it's particularly segregated.
Yeah, if we're talking like Pittsburgh as a whole, like
Pittsburgh as a whole is segregated.
Yeah.
It's if you drive like in Homewood and stuff like that, like it's pretty segregated.
Right.
And then all this gentrification of East Liberty and all that, yeah.
Not really, because like where I live, at least, like my houses and like my neighborhood, there's black people live across the street. We all talk, we all can hang out, and everything is fine. I've never seen anything like super bad happen with them, at least.
Yeah.
But like I go to Alderdice, which is predominantly like it's a mix of white and black, but then I also go to Westinghouse, which is 98% black people.
Yeah.
And like that school, they're all like buddy and stuff. And when there's like, honestly, there's people like me, like there's white people, and they're like, oh look, there's the white girl.
Yeah. Like I go to I'm the same way as you. Like I go to Alderdice, but I also go to UPrep, which is predominantly black, and you commonly see the black people trying to show dominance, which is very understandable. I mean, I don't really have much more to say on that. Again, before you say anything, I know the camera's off sync, so stop typing your comments.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to have the same answers as you, because we're literally 2 minutes apart.
I know, but like your school is completely different than mine.
Yeah.
Barbers, mine and Isaac's could be at the same school, but...
There's like a 50-50, like white and black.
Yeah.
There are some like instances where I think staff could do better and not say what they say.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, nothing really happens.
Ian says no. Aden says, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, and they are very accepting and welcoming people. Although I feel comfortable in this neighborhood, I would say that it is a little racially segregated, but that is just because of the location, I guess.
I think justice is using your voice to fight for what's right, even if you have to like disobey the law in a little bit. I was talking about something in English class the other day. What is it called? Civil disobedience.
Yeah.
So civil disobedience is like no matter what it takes, fighting for what is right and fighting for equality.
To me, justice means like you get something in return for some something that somebody did. Like, you get something in return for somebody doing something wrong to you.
I feel like for me, justice is like if someone did something wrong to you, kind of like how Zach said, you'll get something in return, and or you'll be able to see it. Like, people can see different perspectives when it comes to justice. Cause, I mean, for me, white people do get more justice in some instances, but I feel like for me, justice is just about getting what you deserve and not having something bad happen to you.
Yeah.
If it was happen.
Again, I think just to continue on with the topic, it's opportunity. It's the access to opportunity. And, you know, if you want to say that people are equal and like that we have justice for everybody, you have to give people equal opportunities. And so, like, just to kind of like tie back to the segregated neighborhoods, you know, like a kid growing up in Shadyside is going to have way more opportunities in life than a kid growing up in Hazelwood, because they have the community around them. Number one, they have resources in their communities. So there are things like, public libraries, there's opportunities to learn, there's opportunities for jobs. And so it's just like there are so many more opportunities available in Shadyside than there are in Hazelwood. And so, like, I think if we really want to get to a point in America where we say that, like, we have justice for all, everybody has to be given a chance at those opportunities. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has the same thing and that everybody has, the same wealth or anything, but everybody has the same chance to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, that's something that I think that we lack a lot in the United States. It could be something as simple as, like, going to an interview when you're black. You have a less of a chance of getting that job than if, like, the same person that was white that took that job. Like, there have been plenty of studies that suggest that, like, so many employers are biased towards people of color applying for jobs as opposed to white people doing for that. And that, like, as long as that is in place, there cannot be justice for everybody. Like, as long as there are people that are being discriminated against, there is no such thing as justice.
Aden says, I believe that justice means equality for all people, no matter their gender or skin color, nationality, and so on. Skin color should not even be a thing that comes into play at all anymore. We are all human beings, and we just need to come together as one. Especially after how divided America has become. Ian says, having someone pay for their crimes or be found innocent, getting what is right for people, and getting fair treatment.
I feel like happens to, like, if someone would get pulled over and they get a fine and they have to go to court, the magistrate and the judge would solve it and decide who's deemed correct and incorrect, and I feel like they'd try to give justice for everybody. Yeah, but I feel like whoever's at, like, the highest point of whatever's happening, like, whoever has the power over everybody, I guess, would be the one solving it.
Yeah.
That's what it seems to be in most situations.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I think, especially something that we've seen a lot throughout the summer is like the police. Just the way that the police are responding to problems, specifically with people of color, is a problem. I mean, like, we see this. There are always, like, you know, it seems like every several months we see, like, those really big news stories about, you know, police brutality or something like that, and it goes on a national scale. But that happens a lot more often than we really, like, see that on like, news media. You know, like, that happens in Pittsburgh all the time. There are stories that don't go national. Like, look at Antoine Rose. Look at, you know, like, what's going on with, like, God, I forget his name. The one guy from East Liberty that was shot and killed. I can't remember his name right now.
I swear I just had the news story on my phone.
I know, but, like, so, like, we see those things happening in Pittsburgh kind of a lot, actually.
Yeah. And
there's still, like, we don't see a lot of changes. And so, like, the person that's there to solve them, that's kind of a hard question, because I think, you know, like, the most direct answer to that would be the mayor, right? Because the mayor has the opportunity to, like, fix the budget for the police forces. He has the opportunity to appoint, like, a chief of police. They appoint, like, the people that are in charge of that stuff. And so I would say that the mayor has the most, like, direct influence over solving this. But if we really want to come down to it, like, we, the people, are the ones that put the mayor in power. You know what I mean? So, like, voters are super, super important. And, like, they are the people that are eventually going to, like, you know, elect the people that will actually do something. Mm-hmm. You know, like, over the summer, Mayor Peduto caught a lot of flack. Like, he did not handle those protests very well. Mm-mm. And so the solution is, you know, like, if we as Pittsburghers are not satisfied with him, let's vote him out. Let's get a new person in there. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know that you can necessarily say that there is, like, a single individual person that is responsible for fixing it, but everybody has, like, some kind of a responsibility. Like, you know, we as voters have a responsibility to put somebody in power that's going to change it, but then when that person goes into power, they have the responsibility to actually change it. And so it's kind of like a chain of command almost. Yeah. But I think at the bottom, it starts with voters. It starts with us, and it starts with us, like, actually, like, speaking out and doing something. You know, like, especially in response to, like, the police issue. If you are, you know, walking down the street and you see an injustice happening with the police officers, it's your responsibility as a citizen to maybe film it, you know? Yeah. And, like, make sure that things are going the way that they should go. And so it's just, like, I don't know that there's, like, a solid answer to that question, but I think that, like, the individual and, like, us, I think that we have a lot more power than we think we do.
Yeah. And you would hope that that, of course, the president would help with some of this, but of course, since we have the literal most rotten person in the world, he's not doing anything, and people still support him. Yeah, which is just.
And what you said too, like, that's, and actually, you know what, we could add that to the sixth question as well. Like, the president doesn't have a lot of power in terms of, like, telling local communities what they are allowed to do, or, like, states and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing that's so important about the president is that, like, he is supposed to be a representation of Americans, right? And, like, he is supposed to be somebody that is a role model to people, that is kind of, like, showing them, like, how to do things. And you have somebody like Donald Trump that just posts on Twitter and is, like, constantly, like, stoking the flame and, like, causing problems. And, like, that is a legitimate problem. When somebody like a white supremacist is causing problems in their city and stuff, and the president doesn't call that out, like, that's a problem. You know what I mean? That's a huge problem, because now we have other people that are like, oh, okay, our government's cool with it, so we might as well do stuff. And so, like, you're absolutely right. Like, Donald Trump, the president needs to be better, and the president needs to be a leader. So like even though they don't like directly have the power to say, Mayor Peduto, you need to fire your police chief or something.
Yeah.
They still have influence over that. You know what I mean? And they still have like their voice still matters a lot.
I just think like people need to teach their kids love, and I think that starts at a really young age. Like giving your white kids like baby dolls of all colors. Not giving your kids Barbies, giving them dolls of mixed colors, buying them markers that have skin colors of all tones. I think it starts as a child, and I think hatred and racism, I think it's taught, and I think it's learned behavior. I don't think anyone wakes up and is racist. I think it's all about your surroundings and how you were raised. So I just think maybe even in school as a young kid, teaching classes of tolerance and love to like young kids, and just like what I said about the toys, introducing it like that. I think all of this hate, I think it's taught.
Right. All right. Ian says some issues are anti-Semitism. Oop. And innocent black people being killed. I think our president should try to assist in helping with these issues by doing more background checks and gun safety for anti-Semitism. Attacks. And he should require more intense background checks on police officers. Lastly, he should try to find ways to crack down on loopholes that allow these issues to happen. Aden says, I haven't really seen anything in my community specifically, but I would say law enforcement against African Americans I've seen pictures of a white man pulling out a gun on a police officer, and the officer is trying to calm him down. But the police would pull out their guns in an instant. On a black man that is just sitting in his car, causing no harm. This made me extremely frustrated because it's the same people that support former President Trump and try to give the BLM movement bad reputations. So there you guys have it. Definitely some great perspectives. And thank you to all of my interviewees. I know that's probably not the correct term, but we're gonna go with it. I've said that to a few of you. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I worked really, really hard on this, so if you guys could, please smash that thumbs up button. That would be amazing. And yeah, and don't worry, I promise next week I will be back with a tech video, or later this week, depending on when I post this. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Peace. You know, that's funny. I might put that out right at the end of the video. Like that